One time for Geocache talk. Whether at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, Spotify. I talked to Jerry Janice this week, and he got us into. He wanted another one, so I added us to another location. So, if you have a favorite podcast app and you have not found us on it yet, please let us know and we will add our show to that one if we can. And that way you can get all the Geocache talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music, our patrons, Demon Hunter 2, Aggie Jedi Master, Electric Water Boy. I saw him in the chat room. I know he's out there. Antaeus, Joshua the Geocaching Vlogger, Nick at Cashley, One Kind Word, Ravenclaw Tia, Shermanator 18, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, Sodak Zach, the Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, FS Sabero, Geo Rick, Cash Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, the Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, the aforementioned Janice, Tricasius, Tom Frey, Rugels, the Bruce Zero, EGK, PBR, Casamaya, Master Sergeant USMC, Little Gears, Albedo 0.39, It's Only Barney, Purple Turtles 3, ACDC Family, and our new patrons, None of It Tidy, AFK Geocaching, and Josh Boggs. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. All right, well, let me start by welcoming my co-host, Jesse.
Good evening.
And we're going to jump right in because we got a big show tonight. We're going to jump right into show 95 for April 22nd. As we welcome to the show, Nathan Lewis, a.k.a. Super Nate. Welcome to the Geocache Talk.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We were joking about, he's Nathan or Nate. We're going to go by Super Nate tonight because I like that.
Sounds good to me.
I kid, my son's name, my youngest is Nathan, so he goes by Super Nate sometimes too. So news items. We got a new blog item up, and this should not preclude you from sending in your own blog. So please do that as well. But there's one up. The Geocaching Vlogger has one up. It's his favorite geocaches. We got him stirred up, Jesse.
I know. After our impromptu show.
Right. He was fired up after our little favorites part 1. We'll do a part 2 here in a few weeks. But yeah, he got fired up. He's like, can I send a blog in with my favorite? I said, sure, man, go for it. So that was awesome.
That's it's always funny to find out. You can look at somebody's stats and look at their cache page, and you probably can't predict what their favorite cache experience was.
No.
It doesn't matter what, you may think it's one thing, but you just never know. There's such a varied experience.
No, that's very true. Very true.
So we got a webcam watch too.
Yep.
So we're holding steady in the U.S. We're still at 114, but
Good.
we're down to 277 in the world. So there's currently 6 disabled.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
Couple more added to the list lately.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome, Jesse. We've got and I sent you a note also because somebody tipped us off to a webcam cache that might be going away fairly soon. And I think it's on that.
Yeah.
If it's not on the disabled list, it's a worried. It's one
in
that we're
Canada, right?
Oh,
the one we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so. It's an indoor one, which is really cool that they have some of those still, but
the indoor is going away. So
yeah, the place is going away, so it's going to disappear. That's very sad.
Well, I'm hoping we can hold steady and not get below 100 this summer, at least in the U.S.
Yeah, if we go below 100, we're going to have to light the fires and get some
Have
sound
to get
the
a campaign
alarms.
next year going.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, speaking of campaigns, the
Right.
other campaign they did, the virtual awards, it looks like they're up to 1,355. So they're slowly rolling in now.
Not
It's
bad.
not 4,000, but
No.
I don't think we'll get more than 3,500 total, but I think they'll really start flooding in now.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Like you said, I think once they get an email, everybody who has one probably gets another email that says, "Hey, it's going away. If you don't get it done by August or whatever, you're done." I think you're right. You're going to get whether
I
they're
think they'll
good or
start
not.
pushing it.
Yeah.
So, just as a side note, why do you think? And Nate, jump in here too. But why do you think if you got a virtual award, you wouldn't put it out? You think there's people that are choosing not to do it, or do you think they're just not active and it looked like they were? Because they had some kind of algorithm, right, where they were choosing active people, they're maintaining their caches with high favorites and stuff. I don't understand why you would choose not to do it.
If it was me, I would have a hard time finding the perfect place to put a virtual reward.
But you would still want to do it.
I would want to do it for sure,
Right.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what it is. People are just holding on to them.
There was one that posted that just went first, just published a couple days ago, and it was, and we're not going to get into. Don't write the show about religion or anything else. We don't talk about religion or politics on this show.
No. We're here for fun.
We're here for fun. But I do want to mention this one because it is a virtual reward, and they did it on the life-size ark that is in Kentucky. It's a fact. They made a gigantic ark, life-size, whatever.
Yeah.
Take your religion politics somewhere else. But my point being is that it's a big attraction. It's gigantic. It's huge.
Right.
It's like, why didn't I would think if I lived in that area near Cincinnati and I got a virtual reward and I was interested in using that because it's a big attraction. It's like, like the Dallas Cowboys practice facility. It's a cool spot, regardless of what you think of it. I'm thinking, why did it take them almost a year for somebody to hop on that and use? There's plenty of attractions that I think make for a cool virtual.
Well, I think maybe people are really trying to watch and see. I think somebody threw them out. Some people threw them out immediately.
Right.
And wanted to be those first
good.
few, but some are good and some are just blah.
But went across one that was really bad.
If I happened to be involved in one, I would be making sure I really researched and put it in a really good area. I think we need to bring this up on a show coming up soon. Maybe when it starts getting a little closer.
Yeah.
And really dig into this and see, maybe really dig into those and see where they're putting them, which ones are the best.
Yeah. If you have one and you're either struggling to figure something out or whatever, if you've got one and you haven't put it out yet, please email us, geocachetalk@gmail.com. Let us know your thought process, what you're going through, what your thoughts are on it.
Especially if you want to name it Geocache Talk.
Right.
Awesome.
Especially if you want to name it Geocache Talk.
We've got all kinds of coins for you.
Yeah, we've got swag that you wouldn't believe. We've got one. Is that bribery? Can we bribe somebody, Jesse?
Somebody, we're definitely going to have a show coming up. Somebody in the chat room said you may be waiting for a special date to release. That could be.
Yeah, that's true. That's
like an anniversary or, something that means something to that location or even to you that people wouldn't know, but you did it on that date.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I didn't think about that either.
For people that have the virtual rewards, is there a deadline to publish them or can they?
August.
Oh, August is the deadline.
I forget the date, but it's August something. 1st, 14th, something like that.
Okay.
We'll have to look that up. But yeah. They were given 1 year. Now, They might get extended. We don't have any information. I could check with Rock Chalk and try to get some more info, maybe. But we'll probably plan a show, especially around the end date for sure. But
yeah, let's okay. We'll mark that down now because we're gonna do a show on that because I'm interested now. I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish we had a secret list of who's got them.
I've done
closely guarded.
I've done several of them already, and the virtual rewards that I found have been very cool. The coolest one, we'll get into this with the show tonight, but in Oklahoma City, there's a very cool virtual reward at the firefighter memorial.
Oh, cool!
And that was probably one of our favorite stops of the trip.
Oh, neat.
Now, see, that's a perfect use for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect place for it. Not like McDonald's or something.
Right.
But all right. I knew I was gonna get us off topic with that. We're gonna have to.
That's okay.
Go back to that. So.
Speaking of your county run, Nathan, I think we want to start with you giving us, right, Jesse? We want to go through just the stats, right?
Yeah, but before we even start on that,
okay.
Did you host an event this morning?
I did host an event this morning. Yes.
Was it a Aceto?
It was.
Somebody in the chat room was there. At least one person in the chat room was there.
I did. I saw that. 3 Happy Campers was there. It was pouring rain, soaking rain, and we still managed to have about a dozen geocachers show up, and we cleaned that place up. It looked terrible when we got there, and we got a lot of trash picked up then, and it looks great. I even had some locals that messaged me, said, "Hey, can non-geocachers come and help clean up? Because I'm really excited to see people going and taking care of that area." So kudos to those that were there today. That was some serious dedication.
So Gary,
yes,
looking bad here. So Nate has hosted a Aceto today, has come on a podcast. And is wearing a shirt with his name on it, and we're wearing like old T-shirts, and this is our gig.
I know.
And we did not host Acetos this morning, so he's already a step ahead.
He is.
You're making us look bad. You're off the show.
Way ahead of us. Hey, that's why we get the best. That's why we get the best guests. Jesse.
That's right. That's good selection of guests. So,
absolutely.
All right. So let's get into this road trip because I'm excited about it, and this is my kind of geocaching. I love it. Do you want to give us some, before we get started on planning and all that other stuff, give us some just basic stats to really whet everybody's appetite?
All right. So my wife and I, my wife is called to care. We went on a geocaching extravaganza road trip adventure that lasted for 6 weeks. We left here in Chattanooga on February the 2nd, and we returned back on March the 10th. And oh man, we had so much fun. The ultimate goal of the trip was to, because I'm big into counties. So the goal of the trip was to connect our counties, to have adjacent connecting counties stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And so we accomplished that goal. There's actually a challenge for that by Max B on the River. It is the Golden Spike Contiguous County Challenge, which is GC 59480.
Yep.
And so we accomplished that goal. It was pretty cool.
That is so awesome. And it'll be in the chat room, by the way, too.
Oh yeah, we'll put that in the chat room. So, do you want to kind of give us like how many caches, how many counties?
Yeah.
Just touch on that.
Yeah,
this will be cool. Run through it, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a Prius, Toyota Prius that gets excellent gas mileage. We put 8,400 miles on that Prius on this trip from beginning to end. Our grand total of cache finds was 407. Which included 6 first to finds, which is always a cool thing when you're out of town, you're not in your home turf, and you get some first to finds. That's always a really cool thing. And what was really neat is getting those first to finds. We ran into some other first to find hounds in the area, and so we're like, "Hey, I'm Super Nate from Tennessee, and we already found it."
You're like, come to our area and steal our FDFs.
Right,
Get out of here.
Right. So, so yeah, 407 caches. We got a wide variety of cache types. Only 300 of them, 316 were traditionals, and so we just a wide variety, I would say, and even included some lab caches. We attended the Yuma Mega in Arizona, and so of course there were labs associated with that, which is really neat. And
amazing. 26 puzzles, 20 lab caches, 17 virtuals, 10 events, which we're going to talk about some of the events. 5 multis, 4 letterbox, 3 webcams. That's amazing. 3 webcams, especially in our, as we talked about. You got a mega, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Did a CETO, Jesse, on his trip. He did a CETO.
That's crazy.
And he did something called a Werigo.
It's pronounced "We're the best cache type."
Oh, that's awesome. And now, and then you got a bunch of other cool stuff, 2 benchmarks, and we'll get into all the rest of it. So I got to ask you at this point, did you, and we're going to get into all the planning, but did you plan to do most of this, you think? I mean, this many puzzles, obviously you didn't do any puzzles like on the road trying to figure one out.
No. And I'd have to think on what the puzzles were that we actually did. I think, I know that several of the puzzles were in Yuma, and so we were with a group. So we collaborated and figured out some of the puzzles that were there in Yuma. Also, another thing that I did is in Northern California, it's where my in-laws live. We spent some time there on this trip, and I had found a lot of the caches in the Napa Valley, which is where they live, but I had neglected some of the more time-consuming caches. Right. So while we were there, and I think it was one of the podcasts that we listened to that really lit the fire for me to start looking at puzzles again and try solving them, because I'm one that I have a short attention span, and tends to shut the puzzles down after it doesn't make sense in 10 seconds. But I actually spent some time really scratching my head on some of the puzzles and solved them. So that was really rewarding.
That is
so
awesome.
How did you manage to get 4 events while you were on this trip?
So 4 events, or I hosted 4 events on the trip.
Well,
we attended 10 total.
Oh wow.
But yeah, what we did, my wife is huge with travel bugs and geocoins and trackables. She loves moving them. She loves getting a travel bug, seeing its goal, and helping it on its goal. And so if you ever, for those watching, if you ever have a travel bug that's picked up by Called to Care, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to get some, very, very good care and pictures attached to them. And I mean, she goes above and beyond. So we hosted 4 trackable trade-off events on the trip. And so it was an opportunity for us to not only meet local cachers in areas that we've never been before, but also to pick up travel bugs that needed to move, on their way, and we could help them on their way. So we hosted one here in Chattanooga, which is where we live. Then we hosted one in Bossier City, Louisiana, and then Midland, Texas, and then up in the Napa Valley in Yountville, California.
Very cool. So I'm curious how many people you had attend, because we did a similar thing when we traveled from Colorado to Tennessee, actually. And we took 2 or 3 days, and we did one before we left to gather trackables.
Okay.
And then we did a couple along the way, and then one at our final destination. And it was a huge difference depending on where we were on how many people were there.
Right.
Did you have like the same attendance, or was it really different where you were, or how did you pick the areas?
We just picked the areas based on where we were going to spend the night. So I didn't, I wasn't like, I throw a dart at the map and say it lands on Bossier City, Louisiana. We're going to host an event there. I picked that particular area because I knew we were going to spend the night there. And so we could, we could call it a day from driving and spend some time meeting people and maybe even get some other caches in the area. Bossier City was the least attended event of all of them. We only had one caching couple show up. So it was Rebecca and I, and then husband and wife that live in the area that came. And which is cool. I mean, it still counts as an event.
Absolutely.
Regardless,
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Midland, Texas, we had a very good showing of cachers there. I would say it was probably a little over a dozen. And we met one of your Texas reviewers out there. Came out, cool. Which was really neat. He actually he has a cache in his driveway at his house, and we were camping in our Prius at the time, and we'll get into that later. But we were planning on spending the night in a Love's truck stop parking lot.
Right.
And so we were telling him about that, and he's like, in this area, if you camped out in my driveway, it'd probably be a little bit safer. So we're like, well, sweet, okay, that sounds great. So we got to spend the night there at his place, which was awesome. It was really appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The funny thing is that we did one in Louisiana, and it was the least attended as well, but we had a blast. Because there's only like maybe 3 couples, and then somebody brought their kids. But one guy that was there said they don't have events in that area. So he drove 2 hours for that event.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh my gosh. Now he was cashing along the way, right? But he's like, yeah, we don't have events here, but like once every quarter. So he goes, I saw an event show up. So we jumped in the car, and he had his daughter with him and came all the way out there. I was like, oh my gosh, there's never a week in my area there's not an event.
Right.
So I guess I'm kind of spoiled, but they didn't. So that was kind of neat. And we just sat there hanging out, and we just did them at our hotels, right? So wherever we were staying for the night or wherever we were camping, we'd do that. I think that's a great way to meet cachers. I think that's perfect that you did that along the way and pick up trackables and move them and stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I didn't look ahead of time to see if the area even had an active caching group. I just I said, we're going to host an event here and see who shows up.
Right.
Well, there's no way to lose at that, right? As long as you show up, somebody's there. There's a cacher there.
Yeah.
And I've had friends that have done that when they're traveling, and they'll be the only one there. They're like, I guess, I'm just going to hang out myself for a while and leave.
That is on my bucket list. I want to find a place that I can host an event that nobody shows up.
Well, I will tell you, it's not in Colorado. So we have tried up here. We have done them at the top of mountains. We've done them at midnight in the middle of the lake. We've done them everywhere. Don't do it in Colorado. You will fail. They will go up here no matter what. Cachers here are not scared of anything, especially for events.
It's the same with my area as well. We had a midnight event once a couple years ago or a few years ago, and we had a ton of people show up. So
that's awesome. So we talked about, like you were saying, your plan was, a little, I mean, it's for the young. You were going to park in the Love's parking lot and sleep there for a little bit and hit the road again. But for people that are thinking about planning something like this, what were some of the other lodging things places to sleep that you planned to do on the way? What were some of the other places you had some other, as you went along, what was your sort of planning for your lodging?
Yeah, so on the trip, we did a variety of different places. We would camp in our Prius, which is really cool. The back seats go all the way down. Flat as a pancake, and I'm fairly tall. I'm 5'10", and I could stretch out, and it was very comfortable. We also have a tent that attaches to the back of our Prius.
Oh,
so
cool!
With the back hatch up. The tent just attaches on there, and you can sit up all the way, and it was just really comfortable. It was pretty cool. So we did some of those. We only had to, thanks to the reviewer in Texas, we only had to do a Love's parking lot once.
Oh, cool.
But the other times, one thing that I recommend is looking at the website freecampsites.net.
Okay.
And so we referred to that a few times, and we found some really neat. It's like government property, wildlife management property, places like that have primitive campsites that's first come, first serve, that you can come pull in and you know, pitch a tent if you want to spend the night. And so we did that. And then also we stayed at several Airbnbs. And I think you know, Airbnb far outweighs staying in a hotel, because you have a much we got to meet locals in the area that would give us advice of, you know, things to do, things to see in their local area. And by the way, I have a guest bed here for you to stay in. So
awesome.
It added some personality to our trip, which was pretty cool.
Sure. And I'm going to put a link. There's a link in the show notes, and I'm also putting it into the chat room. But if you guys are using Airbnbs, use Nathan's link and help him out. I guess you get a little bit of kickback for.
Yeah, on your first stay in an Airbnb, you'll get a $40 off your first stay, using that link there. And I tell you what, there are some of the coolest places that you can stay. We stayed in New Mexico on this trip. When we were coming back, we stayed in an Indian Hogan. And what this is the guy hand built this structure that has a dirt floor, has a like a wood stove in the middle of it, and that's how he heats the place. And so it was 16 degrees outside, and we packed that thing full of wood and started the fire, and it was toasty. It was awesome, and it gave us a feel of Indian culture, which was really neat.
That is so cool. And I have never heard of freecampsites.net, but I can't wait till after the show. I'm going to go play around on there, because I'm a car camping fool when it comes to road trips.
You'll find some places that are listed on there that would say overnight parking at a Walmart. So you kind of have to weed through some of those and find the ones that are rated high, and you can and people visit often and leave ratings. And those are the ones that triggered us as quality places to stay.
What's an example of some place you would have stayed just car camping?
We did that twice. We stayed in, let's see, I think it was Arizona, right on the Arizona-California border. It was a place right off of Route 66 that, you know, people have reported that they could pull in even with their full-size RVs, and you know, and just under the stars, and you're out in the middle of the desert, and no one for miles to bother you, and that's what we I mean, that's exactly what we encountered. It was awesome. There was actually an RV there while we stayed, and this couple was traveling from Canada and just passing through, and so yeah, that was a really, really neat place to stay. Another place in Arkansas, I think it was a wildlife management land that we pulled into, is just off the interstate, and we wouldn't have known about it had we not looked at freecampsites.net. So it's pretty cool.
That's my last trip. I stayed in a Love's, stayed in a Walmart, stayed in church parking lots before, because they generally aren't gonna, you know,
they don't. Yeah, they don't.
Or just anywhere you can park anywhere. Just I've even stayed on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You know, it was safe enough. It was me and a guy I go caching with, so we're pretty safe. So, but that's I can't wait to go use that website now.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
We did have one little bit of a hiccup when it came to lodging. We did have to stay in a hotel only once on the entire trip. And and that was when we were going along Highway 1, the Pacific Coast Highway there in California. We did not account for the fact that it was President's Day weekend, and all the campsites, we had planned on going to a campsite, and everything was jam-packed full of people. And all the campsites were taken, all the Airbnbs. We started calling some of the Airbnb hosts, and they're like, sorry, we're booked up. And we even started calling hotels, and they were all booked up. And we were thinking, man, we have to go the 2-hour trek back to where we were staying, you know, with friends. And then we found one hotel that had one room left. And so that was pretty stressful trying to figure that part out. That was really the only hiccup of the whole trip.
The somebody in the chat room, Owen, mentioned couchsurfing.com is another one too.
Mm-hmm.
So see,
I haven't looked into
all the
that
time on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You always learn something on the show every week.
That's right. I mean, always learn something.
Always. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the highlights, and then we're going to get into the details of the trip. But some of the highlights, I love some of these because I'm familiar with some of them because Susan and I used to live out in California. So anyway, first one though is very local, not far from it's about 45 minutes from right where I'm at right now, and that is Muncie headquarters in McKinney. It's GC7 container zone virtual 3 is the GC code. And regardless of what anybody thinks of Muncie, and we're not going to get into the debate tonight about whether you like Muncie or not, that's not the point, because there's a cache there. And let me tell you, I don't know what your experience was, but that cache was full of swag.
It was very well stocked. Yes, it was.
Very well stocked. In fact, Susan and I kind of slipped by there the other day because we knew about the swag. We're like, ooh, we could maybe there's some new swag. We could do some trades. And so it is a very well stocked geocache. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes, it is.
So it's cool that you came through and got to do that one. So
yeah, and we got to meet Rob and Matt, both there at Muncie headquarters, and very down to earth. I highly recommend that being a stop for people if they're passing through, needing, only have time for a couple caches. That was well worth the stop, getting to see them and seeing their office.
Yeah, that's some cool digs they have now, by the way.
It is.
You can go there if you have time, and they're open, because sometimes there's nobody there. But when they are open, and you go in, they're very warmly greet you. You can do an eventsy there, in case anybody's ever heard of an eventsy. You can do one at the headquarters, and they're very good, down to earth folks. So I
was going to say on that as well. If you go onto the Muncie website, there's a link, and I couldn't tell you right now exactly how to find it, but it's somewhere in there. You can fill out a form to tell them ahead of time that you're coming. And
that's true.
And then they will make sure that they're ready for you and pass along the word to Rob or Matt, and make sure that one of them is there to show you around. Yeah,
that is awesome. And they're more than willing to show you all the cool stuff and gadgets in that place. So very cool. And then you also hit something that actually Jesse and I did together. I've done it before, but I took Jesse out there because it's a lot of fun, and he and I had a great time there. I've been a tour guide lately. I also took Joshua, geocaching vlogger, out there, and we did a vlog out there. But you found the oldest cache in Texas.
Sure did.
In Arlington, GC62. It was hidden in September of 2000. So now, did you? The approach to this one is always interesting. You can jump the fence, which is not. It's the cemetery fence. So you're not crossing property or anything. But
right.
You could jump the fence, or right now the fence is sort of half down, so you could jump that. You could go the hard way, or you could come from a whole other direction and make it the easy way, which I never even knew was even there. So which direction did y'all pick?
Well, that is actually kind of a funny story. We did not hop the fence because we did read that, that's kind of frowned on. And of course it's a cemetery, and I'm not going to do that with cemetery.
Right.
But
people have done it. That's why I wanted
yes.
There's 3 ways in. So go ahead.
Yeah. And I did see where people have done that in the past. So we initially took the hard way and turned around and said, I don't think this is the right way. And so we went back, and then we were going the easy way, although I didn't know at that time that was the correct way. So when we were kind of reaching a roadblock on the easy way, Rebecca says, you know what? See if you can go back around the other direction and see if you have better luck going over there. So what I didn't know at the time was she looked at the cache page before we got there and was looking at some of the pictures. And so she knew we were on the right track. And so she saw a landmark that she recognized from one of the pictures. But I didn't know that was one of the landmarks. So she was getting tired of me finding all the caches, and she wanted to be able to find one. So so she intentionally sent me the wrong direction. So that she would be the one to go find it. So when I went all the way around to the hard direction, and I'm going through the briars and trying to get my way, through the fence or, all that, then
all the stickers.
Yeah, exactly. Then she texts me a picture with the cache, a selfie with the cache container.
That is funny.
I was like, oh, man.
That's awesome.
That sounds like what mine would do.
Yep. Well, and Jesse, this sounds like a pattern. The wife actually went and actually did some reading.
She did.
Instead of just bowling forward like the guys.
You just go straight at it.
Right.
You just go straight at it. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right. Just like us wandering around trying to find your 5,000th.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Going
in Texas.
Yeah, it was in Texas too.
Yeah, it was.
Finally, your wife bailed us out and goes, "Hey, idiots, why don't y'all read the cache page?" Oh,
man, of course, the bad thing is it happened online, live in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, we were periscoping it. Not a great idea. All right,
and it just so happens that as soon as we got done finding that cache, I was looking at the Munzie app and noticed that there was a Hotel Munzie with some vacant rooms nearby. Yep. And then when I looked at it, it so happens that it was Geocaching Vloggers, and so that must have been when you were there with him.
Yeah. He we're heading back to the car, and he popped out a hotel one and stuck it there, and
nice.
So it worked out great. Yeah, we had great fun, and Jesse and I had good fun too. We just never knew that you could go the other route.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse and I are.
But the coolest thing about that is it's the oldest cache and it's a multi.
Yes, that is cool.
That's what's so cool about that one.
Yeah, one of the oldest. I mean, I assume one day it might be the oldest. Right now, it's second. I think it's the second oldest multi. But so then you ended up at the other thing I think was really cool, and it's a good time to mention this, was that you were tweeting out pictures, and it was funny was I was actually sending you some messages too, going, all right, we're waiting for another photo, because each day there was, or even multiple times during the day, Nathan would send out a photo, and he would put on the tweet what county they were in, and he'd show, and they do a picture. And go back if you guys want, need to go back and look at some of these photos, because they're great. I grabbed some of them this week to use as for tweets for the show. But I thought that was really cool that you and you guys got creative on some of your pictures that you did on Twitter and I guess Instagram as well.
Yeah. So we took selfies at every county, at every cache that crossed off a county on the entire trip, and tweeted all of those out. So and it was really cool. I had a lot of feedback from people saying, that it was really neat seeing the change of landscape as we moved across the country, and so that was really and I agree, that was a really cool thing to even go back and look at later. Yeah.
It was fun, and I think many people like myself were like, "Oh, let's see what they find now." It's pretty cool. So, so another highlight from the trip is you went to what's always referred to as SWAG. I'm not sure what SWAG.
I think it's Southwest Arizona Geocachers.
Okay, cool, perfect. Every year they have that mega. I guess pretty much the first mega for the U.S. Every year in Yuma, Arizona. And tell us about your experience going to that mega.
Yeah, that was a very well done mega event. We really enjoyed it. All the mega events that I've ever been to was Geo Woodstock, and so SWAG was my first. Actually, no, it's my second mega outside of Geo Woodstock. So it was neat seeing how different megas operate. And so this one we found to be much more laid back. than other megas that we had been to, which was cool, and it gave an opportunity for a lot more. It was a lot more of a social atmosphere, and and so we could meet different people from different parts of the country, because there's a lot of people that come to Swag that don't make it to Geo Woodstock, and so. So it was neat, especially a lot of Canadian cachers. We met a lot. That they come down from Canada to spend the winter in Yuma, and so then they have the mega there, and so it was neat meeting a lot of cool people there. So yeah, they did a great job. They always have a geo tour that they set up that helps you discover Yuma, and so we enjoyed doing that on Saturday, and seeing the different parts of the city that make Yuma unique.
I've heard that's a great mega. A lot of people from here go there every single year, and it's never lined up where I've been able to go, but that's definitely one of them on my list.
It's well worth it. I highly recommend it. It was a good time.
Did you sneak across the border while you were there?
It's
usually an event, right?
Yes. Yes, and that was very cool. We did go across the border twice. The first time was to actually find the caches, and then the second time was to attend the event, because we knew we wouldn't have time to find the caches after the event because we had to get on the road for our next stop. But they have it really cool where you can park on the U.S. side and walk across, and then do whatever you're going to do there in that town, and then walk back across to where you park your car. And it just makes for a less of a headache of having to drive and all that, especially for someone like us that's vacationing and our car is packed. We don't want to risk, we need to search your car now. And you're like, oh no.
Right.
So
why do you have 50, 35 millimeter cans?
That's right.
And what's all this about?
Yeah, exactly. So
geocaching, what's that? No.
Yeah, so that was actually the first caches that we had ever found in Mexico. So we were able to cross off. That was our fourth country that I've done.
Does that count as a county, or do they have counties down there?
I don't think
I'd count
it's
it.
county.
I'd say count
it. Yeah, there you go. I counted it as a country. So
there you go.
Yeah, you got the country, which is
I think that ranks higher. There you go. That's pretty good.
So then you also oldest cache in California. It's kind of cool. And we're going to get into the planning part, but oldest cache, I guess, was just on your list of possibilities, right? It wasn't really, it wasn't necessarily a high priority because you had other priorities.
Well, no, actually, for the oldest cache in California, that one was high priority because we were going to be passing by it. And so that's what I planned as the cache for that county. And we'd actually met up with some caching friends here in Tennessee just about 2 weeks prior to the Yuma event. And we found out, oh, hey, you're going to the Yuma event too? Hey, so are we. Let's meet up and do the oldest cache in California. So that was actually the reason why we didn't find the caches in Mexico after the Mexico event, because we were going to get on the road and hightail it to that. Right. It's about a 2-hour drive to the oldest cache there in California. And so we did that. We left Mexico and it was about 85 degrees. And about an hour and a half later, we were in the mountains, and it was in the low 40s with a 40-mile-an-hour wind and a mist. And we had a mile walk to go to get to that cache. And oh my goodness, that is probably one of the most miserable cache hikes I've ever done in my whole life.
But memorable.
Very memorable. Yeah, I will not forget about that one for a long time.
GC5.
But you got it. That's what matters.
We did. We got it. Yes.
GC5B or 5 Bison. So Mount Laguna is hidden in September of 2000. So
I will say that area is well worth the trip. Going off the interstate and getting other caches in that area. It's gorgeous there. And if the weather had been better, we would have enjoyed it.
Then you had you got to hike to the Hollywood sign.
Yes.
And there's a cache there. GC Query Container 55. So that's kind of cool. There's a cache at the Hollywood sign. That's sweet.
There's several caches within
the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, and very excellent view of the sign, and there's a little bit of a trick. I had to do some homework to figure out how to legally walk to getting behind the sign. There's a puzzle cache that actually ends behind the sign, and and so I had to do a little bit of homework to figure out how to get there. But once we did, we were well rewarded with some great views.
So UDAC is in our chat room, and she just jumped in. Now, the Hollywood sign hike is great too. So she's been up there. So UDAC, there's and for anyone else that's out in the California area, if you haven't done that yet, I know she's done that, but definitely check that out. I guess you got a little bit of a clue now. There is a puzzle that's ends there. Now you got to figure out which puzzle it is, I guess. Right?
I wish I knew that. I've been out there caching, but I didn't go up to the sign. So I'll have to go back, I guess.
Carefully go up to the sign.
Legal, whatever.
Legal,
just run faster.
Oh no, you actually do want to be legal in that area. They watch the Hollywood sign.
I bet.
We actually saw California Highway Patrol choppers circling several times while we were there. They watched that area with eagle eyes, not only for for vandals, but also because all it takes is a spark and that whole place. They worry about wildfires and they had some not too long before we got there, and which had a lot of people affected a lot of people. So,
and people do like to mess with that sign.
Yeah, they do.
There has been some vandalism cases within the last couple of years, I would say.
Yeah. Then non-geocache related, you got to attend a Jimmy Kimmel Live taping.
Yes,
it's taping. It's called Jimmy Kimmel Live, but it's not really live.
Yeah, while we were there in Hollywood, for the little bit of time that we were there in Hollywood, what is it that we can do that will give us a taste of the Hollywood experience? Right. So we said, well, let's do Jimmy Kimmel Live. And by the way, it's not live. It's taped at 3:00 in the afternoon, and then they do post editing, and it airs late at night. But we got I think 3 seconds of airtime. So if you were watching, you would have seen us acting like fools for about 3 seconds right there at the very beginning of the show before he came out. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Got the camera on you. You also visited the southwesternmost point in the continental U.S., and there's a cache there.
Yes, there is. Yes, and that's the cache that I picked for. I believe that's San Diego County.
Oh, okay.
And yes, that was very cool. It's right where California, the Pacific Ocean, and Mexico meet and come together. Wow. So awesome. The cache is about 100 feet from the wall, and we were extra adventurous and did that one after sundown. It was dark.
Oh,
and you have to hike in. It's about a mile walk from the parking, and so you park, you walk toward the beach, and you actually walk on the beach towards the wall. So it was very eerie going out there, and you see Mexico coming towards you, and you're like, well, hopefully there's nobody over here, hiding behind the bushes or anything. But when we did find the cache. Actually, no. When we were looking for the cache, all of a sudden, out of the shadows comes Border Patrol, and so they were very friendly. They're very used to geocachers coming out, and he said, "And just make sure that the three of you stay together because we've had some people try crossing today, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some in the bushes right now." So,
oh my,
oh dear,
it's a common issue, I guess, with them. So.
I think I might do that one when it's light. Of course, you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
you don't have a choice every time because you got to schedule. You got to keep that schedule.
Yeah. We were at the mercy of really our schedule, and that was a must do cache. We had that one very high on our priority list, and because we were getting some other counties that day, and we were busting our butts to get there, but But it just, you know, it's like, it's going to be dark when we get there. Yeah, it's going to happen. Let's just brace yourself, buckle on your seatbelt, and let's go.
Yep. You also visited the Four Corners Monument. Now, what's interesting is that, and this is kind of crazy because people may or may not realize that the Four Corners Monument, when Susan and I went through that area, it was closed. And I'm like, how can you close an area that is like, to me, is kind of cool that all four of these states come together in one spot. But the location was actually closed for renovation. So this was years ago. So now you come through there, and of course, there's a cache there. That's really cool.
There is actually not a cache there.
Okay.
I was very surprised by that, to be honest with you. There are two very high difficulty multi-caches that are nearby.
Wow.
5.5s, yeah. And I looked at them a little bit, and it was like, we don't have time. I don't know.
Hiking.
Yeah, there's a bunch of hiking here. Now, I will say, going back to our previous conversation about virtual rewards, I think that would be a fantastic place for a virtual reward.
I think it's probably limited because it's federal property.
That could be. Yeah, that's possible. I thought, because when we were there, I was thinking, man, why is there not even a virtual here? But that could be.
Yeah, it's protected federal property. There's a lot of, because people try to sneak in there at all times of night and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Which to me is kind of crazy. I've been to the three-corner one, which was Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a little thing off a dirt road. And we had a great time because it was like, hey, there's a virtual here. Let's go grab this thing. There's nothing there. But so Jesse, have you done I assume you've done the 5.5?
I have not done those, but
you haven't? Oh my gosh.
Because I haven't been in that area since I've been caching.
Oh, okay. But it's a
But I have read up on them, and I do want to go do them.
It's a corner of Colorado, Arizona, Utah,
New Mexico.
In New Mexico. Thank you.
And there's not much else in that area.
No, there's not. No. There's about 2 hours of driving through absolutely nothing to get there. And then to leave, we went back a different way, and it was another 2 hours of driving through absolutely nothing. Now when I say absolutely nothing, the landscape is very unique and cool and well worth the drive. That was cool, but there's nothing much beyond that.
Right. Now, I guess you had to pick up, did you have to get a county in that? I mean, I'm sure you're getting counties in that area.
Now the counties in Arizona are huge.
Okay.
So yeah, we got the county,
earlier on, right?
Four Corners is in, but then we drove 2 hours to get to the Four Corners Monument. So the counties are ginormous.
But it's fun to go there anyway. Like you said, as long as you're open.
Did you get the benchmarks there?
I did. I see that was asked in the chat room. Yes, I did get the benchmarks there. In fact, that was one of the stats that I had in there. Our bonus for benchmarks, that's where it came from, was the Four Corners.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, very cool. And then one other item, the musical highway east of Albuquerque. I think I've heard of this, but tell people about this. And it looks like there was a cache that you found also on the musical highway.
Yeah.
Tell people what that is, because it's kind of cool.
I've been working on the geocaching phonetic alphabet here.
Oh, okay.
But it's GC 5 event hike difficulty.
Yes,
I got it.
Event 2.
Oh, event 2 hike difficulty. Yes,
you got it.
I missed
Perfect.
it. All right, I've been practicing that in the mirror.
He is Super Nate. It's good.
Right. He's showing us up big time.
He is showing us up.
So yeah, that is one of the most unique places that I think I've ever been. I mean, geocaching takes you to some of the coolest places. That's something that I like about geocaching is, we wouldn't have heard about it. Actually, I'd take that back. We would have heard about it had it not been for geocaching, because I think it was a Facebook friend of mine that went through there and shot a video. And I said, man, I need to that needs to go on our bucket list. We have to go there. But what it is, it's on Route 66, just east of Albuquerque. And there's signs there on Route 66 that says, get ready, you're about to go to the musical highway. You set the cruise control on your vehicle to 40, I think it's 45 miles an hour. And then you hit the rumble strips just right. And if you're going the right speed and you hit the rumble strip on the side of the road just right, it makes it sings America the Beautiful.
No way.
Yep.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, I've never heard of that. That is awesome.
It is very cool.
Awesome.
It took 3 attempts for us to actually hit the rumble strips because it's literally a tire length. And if you miss it, if you're on either side of it, then you miss it. And so we missed it. I completely overshot it the first time.
Right.
So then we had to U-turn, go back, U-turn, and I'm sure people do that all the time.
Oh yeah, you better. Yeah.
What does it do if you drive it backwards?
I wouldn't recommend it. It's a busy highway.
I used to play the rock music backwards.
Yeah, that's the highway to hell. Then I think.
Yeah, maybe that's the wrong one. Wrong highway.
Wrong highway.
Yeah. So we were gonna do that regardless if there was a cache or not. The cache was a bonus, and you do have to, if there's anybody that's gonna try doing that cache, you do have to park about 200 feet away from it and then walk back along the guardrail because there's no shoulder. There's hardly any shoulder there. And what was really fun is while we were getting the cache and signing it, there'd be a car coming along and it's like, oh yeah, they're hitting the rumble strips and you hear America the Beautiful as the car goes past. Here comes another car, America the Beautiful, and so
you're getting the cache because you hear it. Yeah,
you're hearing people hit the rumble strips as they're going by. So it was really cool.
That's awesome.
So now we got to get into the really informative part for audience, but planning for this trip. But before we do, it's come up like 5 times, and I've intentionally not answered it in the chat room. Are you an iOS user, hence Cachely?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a proud Cachely user.
People were dying in the chat room to ask. They asked it several times. iOS, GPS, what?
Yeah.
I was like, hold on.
I do have a handheld GPS that I use for, if I do some extreme caching, if I'm out in the woods, I'll have a handheld. But I primarily have an iPhone. That's where I do 99% of my caching is with the iPhone.
Is that how you ended up with your FTFs?
Yes.
That is the best feature that's been added since Cachely came out. Is that little FTF words that pops up, or FTF letters, I guess, that pops up on the pin? That is awesome.
Yeah, that's how I got a couple of them.
Driving through on a road trip in Oklahoma or Texas Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
Just randomly popped up FTF. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's how I got one of them or 2 of them. The others, they were in the Napa Valley, and I got a heads up at the beginning of the day that somebody was out hiding caches. So I had to go run some errands for my mother-in-law. And so I quickly put in an instant notification for the Napa area. And so as soon as I picked up what I needed to pick up, then all of a sudden my phone just started blowing up with new caches. And so I'm like, man, I'm out here. I'm going to do them. And that's actually where I met up with some of the first to find hounds. So
very cool.
Nice.
That was fun. Yep.
Did you have, well, we'll get into the planning, whatever, but did you save some offline lists and stuff ahead of time?
I did. Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. When I, and that goes along with the planning, when I picked out the cache that I was going to find for that county, then it went into a bookmark list, which I, did a pocket query for and put it in, pushed it to Cachely.
And that's cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you cached and didn't have a GPS? That's sacrilege, isn't it? I don't think that. No, I'm just kidding. I just messing around because I'm 100% cell phone cacher. I'm not the GPS guy.
Both me and Jesse, I actually sold mine off. I don't even have a GPSR anymore.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And that's,
you're not even a cacher.
I think I am.
I remember when I was caching one time in Nashville, and I came across my very first cell phone cacher, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'm like, what is this craziness that I'm seeing? You're caching with a cell phone? Because I've been caching since 2004. And so for the first, so many, first 10 years, really 8-10 years, it was exclusively GPS. I mean, geocaching cost, $100+ to play because you had to have a GPS unit. And so I saw my first cell phone cacher and I didn't know what to think about it. I fought that for a very long time.
Well, yeah, I started in 06 and Susan and I had a Magellan, still have it because I like it as a museum piece, but we used to print. I'm sure you did too, Nathan. We printed out, you printed out all your caches and then you would go through and you make notes. We found that one. And by the end of the day, you're like, man, we found 12 caches today. We were rocking 12 caches. I mean, that's incredible. Some days it'd be like 7. You're like, oh, that was a good day. We got 7, but
yeah, start till 11. So it was already a dinosaur by then.
Yeah, at one point I had a giant 3-ring binder.
Right. That's awesome.
Full of cache pages, cache listings. Oh my goodness.
But now with Cachely, I mean, Jesse and I are in the same boat. I mean, with Cachely, you got offline lists and your GPS works on your phone, regardless of if you don't need. Yeah.
The other best thing is, and you'll appreciate this, I know you do, the county lines. You have the county lines in the Cachely app. So if you're going on the fly, or if you want to, I want to really make sure this is on the right side of the county. All the county lines are right in there. And you can't overrate that one.
And for us on this trip, there were a couple times where we could not find the cache that I had selected for the county. And so then I had to, on the fly, go with a plan B. And so that required, because, nothing would be worse than getting out into Podunk County and I screw up and miss the county line and I have a blank spot.
A white spot. Oh.
You have no idea how much that bothered me.
I've done it. I did it in Utah, and I have one white spot in the middle of a bunch of red.
Yeah.
And I was with my buddy that is a county hunter.
Yeah.
Even worse.
My gosh.
That's terrible.
It still bugs me about that.
He's still having nightmares. He's going to counseling over this.
It was all my fault. But,
oh, no.
That's why I use Cachely, and if I would have started back when you guys did, I would have been a terrible cacher. I am only good at it now because of the cell phone. So
yeah.
Oh man.
But so starting from the beginning, you probably didn't start with Cachely. You probably Project GC.
Yes, Project GC was my primary go-to for the planning. I'm an Apple user, so I don't have access to GSAC. I do know that I could, hack my Apple devices, or my laptop to be able to get GSAC in there, I just haven't gone through that headache. I've seen where people have done it, but anyway, yes, Project GC was about 100% of my planning between Project GC and Google Maps, and that's how we planned.
I'm an Apple user too, and I haven't gotten into GSAC. I have a lot of friends that swear by it like it's the only way to cache, but Project GC, I haven't found anything that I have not been able to find or do with Project GC too. That's how I plan the same way.
And it keeps getting better and better. There's always something new that I'm learning about Project GC.
Yeah, they've got so much stuff on there. It's ridiculous. And you can do it on the fly, on your phone, wherever you need to do it, whenever you need to do it. And
love Project GC. Love it.
So when you started your search, what were you primarily focusing on?
So what I started doing, and primarily I looked for favorite points. So because of the nature of the trip, and we were getting literally cross country, I only had time for one cache, and I was strict with one cache per county. There were a few exceptions where there were 2 caches that were extraordinary caches in a county that I just couldn't pass it up. I'm like, we're here, might as well do it. So then I picked 2, but I primarily looked for favorite points. And so what I did is I started searching an entire state, and we'll take Oklahoma, for example, since that's a state that we went through. I would search for the top 25 most favorited caches in the state. And then if any of those fell within, say 3 to 5 miles of our route, then I went ahead and stuck that in for the county. So once I stuck in the highest favorited caches, then I started looking for any DT combos that either myself or my wife lacked. The DT combos that I lack are pretty difficult caches, and they were going to take a lot of time. So I wasn't able to knock off any combos for myself, but we did knock out a few for my wife, which was really cool. And we also looked for some Jasmer qualifiers. For me, I only need like 5 months in 2000 to finish up my Jasmer. But my wife lacked a few more, and so we were able to cross off some grids for her, which was awesome.
Very good.
So between favorite points, DT and Jasmer combos, after I had filled in counties using those criteria, then I actually selected each individual county and finding which caches are the highest favorited caches in each county. And I did that by going into Project GC, and you can go and actually click map counties, I think is the selection. And you click on the county, and it will show you all the caches that are there in the county. And so then I picked the ones that had the highest amount of favorite points. I was favoring regular and large size caches. There were actually more than a few times that my only option was a micro or a nano. And I'm okay. All right. Well, that crosses off the county as well. So, yeah. And then I was just looking at my notes here, reminded me, Travel Bug hotels got, made it really high on the list as well.
That's cool.
For not only because Travel Bug hotels typically are the most creative caches you'll find. People do an excellent job with Travel Bug caches. But also because my wife, that was her, that's what kept her going with this whole trip. And kept her excited about the trip, was being able to help Travel Bugs along their journey, which was really neat.
And like you said, it was a good combination for everybody, because she liked the fact that she's big into Travel Bugs, but also I think, and Jesse, I don't know what your experience has been, but typically Travel Bug hotels are usually there for some reason. We've had good luck in Texas as far as, now they're not always, we're going to find some that are gone, but we've been pretty fortunate that whenever we've tried to find a Travel Bug hotel, it was actually there.
Right.
So
I'd agree with that. Now they range from quality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And even size. You see some are huge and some are just a basic ammo can or whatever. But usually if somebody's going to put out a Travel Bug hotel, they're generally interested in the Travel Bugs and maintain it quite well. So that's a good safe bet. I hadn't thought of that before, but now that you say that, it makes sense when you're going through an area.
Absolutely. And we did, and I'll actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I need to look it up to get you the actual GC code. But we found one of the coolest Travel Bug caches I think I've ever done in Arkansas on our way back. And I'll see if I can bring up that GC code that you can share, because it was very, very, very cool. And probably one of our favorite caches on the whole trip.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Definitely send me that, and I'll actually, include that in the show notes. So,
okay.
And for anyone who's never listened to our show before, we do put all the show notes, and I got to go back and put some of the older ones because we had some issues on the website, but they'll all be there. And so you can go always, get the link and go check out any of the, caches we've talked about tonight.
So in the chat room, Ken's poking fun, but I do want to ask the question. He says he does look for earth caches when he's doing it. But there's a problem with looking for earth caches. Did you target many of those while you were on the trip?
Not really. On this particular trip, we didn't. And the reason for that is it's my personal preference that crossing off a county is done with a physical container.
you know, and there's other reasons too, not just because they're boring, but because you have to send an answer. And what if you got it wrong?
Right.
Then you might miss the whole county. Oh, did I say that boring part out loud? I didn't mean to. No,
but you're right. But you're right though.
On a virtual too, though, right? Whenever I'm going through a county, if I'm going to pick a virtual as one that I want to get, I'm going to grab at least one more physical while I'm there.
Yep.
Just in case.
So you have a backup. That's what we did as well. I mean, because we did do some earth cache. We found 3 earth caches on the trip. And then we also did 17 virtuals on the trip as well. But any of those virtual type caches, whether it be virtual or a webcam or earth cache, they were always followed up with a physical container.
Yeah, or you have to just to ensure that you're going to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was, you know, we've heard horror stories of people where it looks like a simple earth cache or virtual, and they're like, nope, that's not good. Yeah. That's not going to count. And you're like, whoa, hold on.
That happened to Tom Brotherman. He's in the chat room. He was warning everybody because if you're doing, and he was doing all the counties in Texas, and they ran into an issue where, you know, and that's the thing. Like you said, you know, you need to have. Or, I don't know. You guys didn't really have backups. I mean, you had some backups just in case you couldn't find one.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and typically for the the places that we went, for the most part, there were a lot of other caches to choose from in the area. There were a few times on the trip that we only had one cache to choose from. There was only one option for the county, and we said our prayers going into it that we would find it, because if we didn't find it, then the whole goal was going to be, you know, because it was going to be, you know, half an hour plus of driving out of our way to get something else, which, you know, I was prepared to do with a goal like that, but I really didn't want to have to. And so, fortunately, those couple times that we only had one option, we found them.
'Cause you weren't, and we didn't really get into this much, your actual path, but you weren't coming back the same way, so you didn't have a second chance, right?
No. So what we did going out, we went out through Dallas, and then we hugged the southern United States border out to Yuma, and then and of course went up the Pacific Coast Highway up to the Napa Valley after spending some time in LA, and then we went back home via Route 66 and Interstate 40.
Yep. Through Oklahoma.
Yep. Yeah. And I did find that that waypoint code for the really cool travel bug cache in Arkansas.
Oh yeah. What is it? I'll put it there.
Yeah, it's GC virtual fizzy 83.
Got it.
And so that is a very, I'm not gonna, although you can easily get on the cache page and look at the photos and see what exactly it is and how it's hidden, but I'll just say that it's extremely unique. It's not something that you see every day, and that is located in, let me bring it up here. It's located in Clarksville, Arkansas, right off of Interstate 40, and apparently there's a lot of really creative caches in that area. And that would have been one of the times where I had a lot of good options to choose from, but because of time and we had to get back home, because at that point we were on our way home, we only had time for one cache, and that was the one I picked. And I was really glad we picked that one. It was excellent.
Yeah. Golf Nuts Travel Bug Hotel.
That's correct. Yep.
All right, cool. Yep. I got it in the show notes, and I'll put it in the chat room quick. So, yeah, I guess you before the trip, I'm sure you had small nightmares periodically about what happens if we can't find one.
Oh man!
Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do now?
I double checked, triple checked, quadruple checked my lists before we actually left, just to make sure that, you know, I hadn't missed anything. And because I was very worried about that with an extensive trip like that.
Yeah, that's planning is really the hardest part, getting it all right. And
yeah, the fun part. It's fun too to do that, though.
I am terrible at that part. I'll admit it.
It's why you have a CFO. It's why the Memphis Mafia has a CFO.
If I'm going with her, she's definitely doing the planning. And if I'm going with my caching buddy, he is excellent at that. He's good at planning. And as long as we stick to that plan, we can hammer out and go crazy. It's when we start. I'm like, oh, hey, there's a 5-5 right down the street.
Yeah.
Let me just give me 30 minutes. That's when we start getting off the.
He's a county hunter, so
yeah. When you get off the plan, that's the thing. You know, I've done. I know a lot of people that are watching right now have probably completed a lot more counties than I have. But you know, I'll take Mississippi for example. You know, I've completed all the counties in Tennessee and Mississippi. And when you plan a county run, when you're planning on you know, knocking out counties as your specific goal, you can't veer off your plan because you'll shoot yourself in the foot and you won't get stuff done in a timely manner.
Right.
I know so many people that are into county runs and county caching. I really think I may have to get into that next year and start doing that a little more. I've never really done it intentionally other than when going with other people that are doing it, but I may have to. It looks like a fun way to add something new to caching.
It is. I mean, I like the challenging caches. I like going, you know, doing long hikes, you know, doing extreme things. You know, I'll go for pretty much anything. There's been a few times that I've been caching that I'm just like, all right, I do not want to die this way. But there's been a few moments like that. But you know, but county caching is my type of fun caching now. I used to be all about the power trails and the numbers, and you know, and that still is fun. I'll still do those occasionally. In fact, I just hosted an event this last Friday, where right after the event we did a mini power run nearby, and it was fun. We had a great time. But that's just not, you know, getting hundreds of caches in a day is not my type of you know, what keeps me up at night. What I enjoy doing now is the counties and seeing where, you know, geocaching takes you and the unique places that it takes you. And county runs, especially in a state, just really opens your eyes to the less beaten path, you know, places that most people don't go. You know, here in Tennessee, I tell people, you know, I've lived in Tennessee my entire life. And most people have only been within 20 miles of either side of the major interstates. But to actually get off the interstates and to go into the boonies and to visit some of the you know, the towns that if you blink, you miss them. That's really fun. That is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I love the places geocaching takes you and all the extreme stuff. But I still think there's, you know, every once in a while you want to do counties. Every once in a while you want to do numbers. Every once in a while you want to float down the river to one.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's so cool.
That's the beauty of geocaching is you can approach it different ways and in different times. You know, Jesse and I talked about this because if you found 100 caches to this point, it's all still fairly new to you. I mean, if you found 100, very good for you, but you're in a certain type of experience, and Jess and I would encourage you to highly enjoy where you are, but know that you may want to change what you do as time goes on. Maybe you get to, like Jesse's was at 5,000 at one point recently. He found a different flavor of geocaching that kept his interest level. I think what's sad, and we don't have time to go into this. This is for a whole show someday.
Yeah,
we've all, well, maybe not all of us. I know Jesse's run into people who they used to geocache, and you go talk to them and be like, so, you know, what's your latest interest? You know, what are you working on? And not necessarily how many they found, but just what are you working? Are you working on Jasmine? Are you working on? And they go, no, we're just not really. Jesse, I ran into a guy at the. You remember the guy at the convenience store? He's like, oh, geocaching. You know, it's all junk because, you know. What was his deal?
Said, my girlfriend tried to get me into that game. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it was like, was it puzzles? I think he didn't, or something. But anyway,
something, yeah.
And we've always had people. It's like, well, that's kind of sad to find out that they don't like it anymore because of one thing that they don't like about it anymore. Right. And it's like, go work on Where I Goes or some kind of, something different. Go do something different in geocaching and spark that interest again. I mean, if anybody's listening and they're like, they feel burned out about geocaching, and again, that's for another show, but approach it from a different angle. Go on a county run.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's example. The county stuff's fun, and by far my favorite type of caching is the extreme stuff. I like hiking and boating and all that other stuff, and I'm about to hit a big milestone with that, my 200th 5.5, which I'm excited about. Right. But at the same time, later in this year, around September, I'm going to the ET Power Trail, and we're going to spend 4 days out there. And by the way, anybody listening, if you want to go, shoot us a message on the show.
I do right here. I want to go.
Do you want to go?
He wants to go.
We'll
talk about it after the show. Because we actually are planning a trip out there. We're going to go out there for about 4 days, and I want to go out there and saturate it once and go, hey, I did that. That was fun. And that's not my type of caching, but for this year, hey, you know what? Right. This is what I want to do, and I want to go and just have a blast for 4 days with a good group that wants to get out there and video or whatever, because there's not so much signal out there, but I mean, really experience it. The whole T-shirts and stamps and all that fun stuff, and get out there and do it once and just really blow it out one time, and then I'll probably not do that for a while.
No, because it's a whole
different animal.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a whole different pill bottle experience.
Oh man.
Or I don't know if it's pill bottles or is it camera? Is it still camera canisters?
Yeah, I think it's the 35 millimeter containers, and you're swapping and running and multiple cars, and you're just going all day long because there's nothing else to do out there, right?
Yeah,
right.
There's a power trail at the California-Arizona border on Route 66, and we actually did 50 of them on our road trip because my wife hasn't really done too many power trails, and so we were like, why not? Let's set our stopwatch for an hour and a half. And say, we're going to do this power trail for an hour and a half. And as soon as that time limit ends, we're done. Let's get back on the road and go. And so I don't remember if it was an hour and a half. I don't remember what our time limit was, but we got 50 of them. Nice. And so, that was cool. And yeah, they were pill bottles.
Right. Right.
You know what? Sometimes that's just fun.
It is. Yeah.
It's a different type of cache, and an hour and a half on 50. And you may spend an hour and a half on one gadget cache, and you can have fun both ways.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yep.
And you have a note in here. Anyone going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? What's that about?
So I'm going to be in. Anybody that's listening or watching the show, I'm going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the first week of June. I'll probably throw an event out there. But if anybody, shoot us an email if anybody wants to go cache. I'm just going to cache around a little bit while we're there. The girls are going to lay on the beach for a week, and I'm not. So I'll maybe make half a day on the beach, but I want to go geocaching, and I'll sneak across the line to North Carolina too, while I'm over there. But if anybody happens to be in that area in that first week, shoot us an email on the show, and we'll set up some caching trips.
Send a note to geocachetalk@gmail.com, and Jesse will get back.
And I'll throw at least one event down while I'm there, and move some trackables from out here from Colorado to South Carolina too.
Yep. All right. Final thoughts. So we're going to switch it around. Let me start. I'll go to Jesse, and then we'll have our guest sort of wrap up his thoughts on this. But and we've kind of been doing that the last few minutes. But my final thoughts on this, just specifically about county runs, is that I love the idea. I wish I want to do one, and I know Susan's up for doing a county run at some point. We're going to probably do county run in Texas because one of our goals will be to. Yeah, well, not only that, but it's a combo thing, and this is something people might want to think about for their state, depending on their size. I mean, I had some fun with Rich Spada today because he joked about doing a Massachusetts county run, which it was like 45 minutes in a bowl of clam chowder, and he's done. But if you're planning on doing a county run, like say to Geo Woodstock from wherever you live right now, is a possibility. Mm-hmm. But maybe do, or at least in my opinion, what we will do is make it into a combo. So we'll do as many counties in a run as possible. But for us, since we've got a huge state, we might want to do our county run sort of into the interior of the state and sort of gobble up some of those counties in our quest for all that. So, like in Jesse's case, he's got some counties that he wants to hit a certain direction. Well, like you did, Nathan, you had counties all the way to the Atlantic coast, and so you were specifically planning to do counties all the way out to the Pacific coast. So, my final thought of this is that think about county runs in different ways. Use it as a creative springboard for your geocaching, and use county runs as part of the fun of a plan to do something. So that's my thought. Over to you, Jesse.
Yeah. So we actually have a county run. My wife and I have a county run coming up. That was her goal, is to get the counties throughout our whole state. And Colorado's pretty spread out, so it takes a little bit to get them. Yep. We've only got 64. We don't have 254 like you do in Texas, so it doesn't take that long. But
you got a big mountain range to deal with.
We do have mountains that you have to contend with, and we have one of the most remote counties in the contiguous here in our state. There's one way in and out, right? I mean, that's it. That's all there is there. That happens to be one we don't have yet. But we have a county run coming up, and it sounds like that's not a very big deal on the scale of what we've been talking about. We're talking about 6 counties. So we only have 11 counties left, 2 in the Northwest, 1 kind of in the middle, 2 in the Southwest, and then this little clump of 6. It's not that far away, but to get those 6 counties, it'll take us a full about 12 hours.
Wow.
Just to get down there and get back home. And a lot of that's just because it covers a lot of ground, right?
Yeah.
Colorado's a pretty big state. So those 6 counties, and luckily we can shoot down the main interstate to get there.
Yeah,
but,
to start.
This is something for people to think about. All that's going to cost us is gas for a day. Right. We're going to go out, me and her are going to go out, and it's like a date for the day. So counties can be incorporated into geocaching without taking a cross-country road trip. There's tons of counties in your own state. We're just going to go out all day, pick a couple towns, have lunch, do that fun stuff, and then get back. We'll have time to get a couple per county because it's a little closer. But that's a whole fun day, and it's going to cost you gas for the day. That's it. So that's a great weekend. Or even if you're able to car camp or stay in a little KOA along the way, you can have tons of fun in a weekend and really keep the cost low. So it's a good aspect, to geocaching. The whole nother aspect, if you haven't been doing it, it's pretty fun to do.
Yep. Awesome. Nate, we'll let you have the final word. Well, mostly the final word. I got to close the show, but final thought on this part of it.
Yeah. So when it comes to county run, county caching, people have asked, well, how do you pick the caches for the counties that you do in a state? And if we're doing a run like in Tennessee, the way that I do it, rather than looking at the roads and picking the most efficient route that we can do, and then and find the cache that's along that most efficient route, try looking in a county and finding the cache that you want to do in that county. Just pick a cache, and then pick a cache in each county that you want to do, and then route it from there. And yes, it's not going to be the most efficient route. You're going to definitely drive more that way, but ultimately you're going to see more of the counties, because then the routing to get to the cache that you picked, even if it's out in a remote area, is going to get you off of the main highway. And that ultimately is what interests me. So that's what I recommend. And the other thing that I would say to anybody watching, if anybody has, if anybody's interested in planning a county run, you're not sure exactly how to do it, and you maybe have some questions, I'm definitely willing to answer any questions that anybody may have. I'm pretty active on Twitter, as you guys know. So feel free to shoot me a message. I'm at my handle is at SuperNateTN on Twitter. So at SuperNateTN. So TN as in Tennessee. Is how you can reach me there. And I'll be on Twitter tomorrow night. I'm going to be hosting the U.S. Geocaching Hour.
Sweet.
Tomorrow night. So
cool.
Be sure to tune in.
Yeah, definitely. If people haven't been on there yet or not familiar with it, we have a tweet chat, US Geocaching Hour. Monday nights, it's 8 p.m. Central, and convert it to your time zone. But we haven't been able to, Susan and I haven't been able to go on lately. We have something currently on Monday nights at 8, but love US Geocaching Hour. It's not just for US. We have folks from really all over the country that join. And so it's a lot of fun. Tweet chat, and there'll be questions. Everybody, it's a conversation on Twitter. And
it is. It's very cool. And just like you learn new things here on Geocache Talk, you'll learn new things on US Geocaching Hour that, it just changes your perspective on things. And it's pretty cool. It's neat seeing, everybody interact.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Nate. That was great. So coming up on the show next week, we got Geo Paul from across the pond. Geo Paul lives near London, and he's going to be on the show. The show's going to be at 3 p.m. next Sunday. So mark your calendars accordingly and join us in the live chat and ask Paul some questions. He will be on, and we're going to be talking about things that are happening over in the UK. And then the week after that, we've got a very unique show. Show 97 is called Do You Know the Way to Cincinnati? You like how I did that? Thanks very much. We're going to talk about sort of a county run kind of thing to Nathan, kind of caches to find along a route to Cincinnati as you're headed to Gigastock, as I've been calling it, and some caches you may not want to miss. And each of us is sort of taking a different route, and some of us a theoretical route, since Jesse's not be able to make the trip, and Angie is going to help out. She's going to do her route. Zach and I each have a route. We're going to try to give you guys caches that we're planning to find along our route if things work out. And then in 3 weeks, we're going to have on Matthew Janiak, and I hope I didn't mess up his last name. Knowing me, I probably did, but you get the idea. Janiak is he is part of the Georgia Geocaching Association, and they do weekly challenges. And he's going to come on the show and tell us about how they plan those, how those are going, and just how you can set up your own Geocaching Association weekly challenges. And that seems
how we
exciting.
Can steal it for our show.
Right. How we can steal it.
You may not know that part, so edit that part out.
Right. We're going to take that part out. No, no. The idea is, I know he wants to share. I've already talked to him about it, but he'd like to see others do this as well. So we're looking forward to finding out about how they do that and what are some ideas that he can share with all of us. So we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Please email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. At Geocache Talk. Mine's my personal one's at Gary Slinkard, one word. And we're also on Instagram. We're big Instagrammers now. We have Geocache Talk. Jesse's at Memphis Mafia. Both those are all one word. And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and as well as the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below so that you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis and be reminded of that, and tell your friends about the show. Get them involved as well. And we always have a great chat room. So, invite your friends, get them in there as well. In, whether they've been geocaching a long time or just a little bit of time, we'll have fun together. And until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go make a county run and go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.